Talks, Hazard Communication Safety Data Sheets. The right to know. Employers and employees have both the right and the need to know what the health and safety hazards are and the identities of chemicals they might be exposed to at work. They also need to know what protective measures are available to prevent adverse effects from occurring when working with these chemicals. They need to know how to read, use, and identify the hazards of chemicals using the safety data sheets and the labeling system. When employers and employees have the information about chemicals used, they can take the steps to reduce the exposures, substitute less hazardous materials, and establish safe work practices. Safety data sheets, or SDS. Each Wausau supply facility will maintain an inventory of all chemicals and hazardous materials used in its operation. Safety data sheets are part of this inventory and will be maintained for all hazardous chemicals identified as either a physical or health hazard. These safety data sheets are available to all employees on hard copy format located in yellow binders, usually found near the safety board of every location. These sheets contain critical information about all the chemical components used throughout each facility, their hazards, how to protect yourself, and what to do in the event of an exposure. SDSs are all in a standardized format consisting of 16 sections. Section 1 discusses product and company identifications. This includes product identifiers used on the label, the recommended use, any restrictions of use, the contact information of the manufacturer, importer, or responsible party, and the emergency phone number. Section 2 discusses hazard identifications. This includes the classification of the chemical, signal words, hazard statements, hazard symbols including pictograms, and special hazards such as not using water in a fire situation. Section 3 discusses composition and information on ingredients. This includes the chemical name, the common name and synonyms, the chemical abstract system or CAS number, and the hazardous ingredients with percentages of each. Also, for mixtures as opposed to substances, the chemical name and the exact percentage or concentration of all ingredients classified as health hazards. Section 4 discusses first aid measures, which describes the correct procedures which are specific to the method of exposure, acute and delayed symptoms of overexposure, and the type of medical attention or treatment needed. Section 5 discusses firefighting measures. This includes suitable extinguishing media and specific firefighting hazards. Section 6 discusses accidental release measures, which includes personal precautions, personal protective equipment, emergency procedures, containment methods, and materials for cleanup. Section 7 details handling and storage. This includes safe handling and storage precautions such as storing in a flammable container or cabinet. Section 8 discusses exposure controls and PPE. This includes recommended and required exposure limits for hazardous materials and the PPE required for safe handling of hazardous material. Section 9 goes over physical and chemical properties. These include the following properties: appearance, odor, melting point, pH, vapor pressure, density, and solubility. Section 10 discusses stability and reactivity, which includes the chemical's stability and reactivity with other chemicals or environmental conditions. Section 11 includes toxicological information, including the possible health effects for various routes of exposure. Section 12 includes ecological information, which describes a chemical's degradability, mobility in soil, aquatic or terrestrial toxicity, or other adverse effects. Section 13 shows disposal information, which shares information on safe handling and methods of disposal, including the disposal of any contaminated packaging. It may also include description of waste residues. Section 14 shares the transport information, which includes the chemical's proper shipping name, transportation hazards, environmental hazards, and other transportation precautions. Section 15 details regulatory information, which includes any national or regional regulations for the product that have not already been covered. And finally, Section 16, which shares information such as data preparation, the latest revision date of the SDS, or other related documents. So in closing, every location will maintain a hard copy of every hazardous chemical within the facility. If anyone identifies a missing SDS, they should report it immediately to their supervisor. The SDS is a tool to identify all of the necessary information to safely handle hazardous chemicals. Knowledge of the individual sections will prepare you to quickly find the information you need. In review, a safety data sheet contains all of the following except A, first aid measures, B, phone numbers for local poison control center, C, instructions on safe handling practices, D, appropriate PPE for the material, B, phone numbers for local poison control center. Where can SDSs be found at Wausau supply locations? In yellow binders, usually by the safety boards. Remember that many potential injuries can be prevented by taking the appropriate precautions and making sure we are following the company instructions in regard to hazard communications.